Welcome to the Simply Authentic podcast with Angie and Tanya, where we hope to inspire you to dream big and push past your fear, empower you to take charge of your own life, and challenge you to be the most authentic self you can be.
Welcome back to the Simply Authentic podcast. I'm Tanya Murfin.
And I'm Angie Mullings. And we have a guest in studio today. Welcome,
We do.
Austin Elliot. We're very excited to have you here. He is the partner and operations director at Locke and Stache. So tell our listeners a little bit about what you do at Locke and Stache.
Yeah, what is Locke and Stache?
Yeah, so Locke and Stache is a full-service video production company.
Okay.
And so we do commercials, music videos, nonprofit documentary type things, whole range of, if it's got video involved in it or film, cinematic type of stuff.
Right.
We're making a bunch of different content like that, taking it from all the way from the concepting all the way to final producing it or anywhere in between. And so I'm one of the founders and partners at it, and then also operations. So making sure all the pieces are moving correctly with our team and with the freelancers or contractors we work with or clients or any of that type of stuff. So, yeah.
Great. So how does one decide that they're going to do this with their lives?
That's a good question because I kind of stumbled into it more so. I have two business partners. Josh and Chris both for their whole lives have wanted to do film, and I kind of did it as hobbies here and there of just growing up, ended up with a camera, and it was never something I considered as a career.
Right.
And then one summer in college I worked at Camp Barnabas as a videographer, had a friend that was working there, and I was like, man, yeah, this would be fun. And then at the end of the summer I was like, oh, I could do this. And then after a bunch of career changes in college, then I landed on this and just kind of kept following it to do that. I didn't expect us to make a company here. In school, I ended up studying media promotion for nonprofit organizations, and so it was a DIY build your own major at Missouri State. So it was global studies, religious studies, and film production all kind of grouped into one with the hope of telling stories for nonprofit organizations or organizations that were doing good in the world, and then doing the video side of it. So that ended up getting me a job at Convoy of Hope, and so I worked there for a number of years. Me and one of my business partners both did, and then we moonlit on the side the whole time. We're always buying more camera equipment, doing more projects outside of what we were doing for them, but we were traveling every month to a different place, and then when we were back in town shooting random Kickstarters for friends or music videos for friends, or had a Craigslist listing for a while that we got random work from, and then didn't really build it as a business plan, didn't have an official thing written, but at some point we had an inquiry that was we either need to quit our jobs or take the project, and we had a cool boss that was yeah, I knew you were going to leave at some point, so go start your thing. And so quit, and then kicked it off 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask. When did you officially become a business?
That was 7 years ago in August. It'll be 8 in August.
Okay.
Officially.
All right.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something there, and my mind was kind of going as you were giving that description of how you got started or why you decided to do this, was where's the platform for you to know the desire and need for that? And you mentioned Craigslist. So just like you think about Facebook, that's where you go to find your social connections. Is there something that you could kind of see as you were building in your other job and you were building the interest in this and actually opening a business? Is there somewhere that you can see, oh, we are getting, besides Craigslist, we are getting more interest, we are getting more inquiries?
Yeah, I mean, that was, all of it's been word of mouth. Craigslist was probably the least beneficial thing for us. But it was, we tried.
It was there.
We tried.
We've all used Craigslist at one point.
And that was us we were college kids we were all friends in college, the three partners, and so we were trying different things, and Probably our biggest thing once we actually did start was our portfolio on Instagram. Ended up getting us a bunch of connections with either agencies or companies that we were able to partner with, and to this day still end up being one of our main. A couple of the agencies that we met through that we still hire us often for different stuff, and so. But I think at the root of it was Instagram, but it more so was that when we were leaving college, the option would have been like move to a coast, move to LA, move to New York, move to Atlanta.
Yes.
And the three of us, part of it I think was that me and Chris were traveling a bunch with convoys. So we were in different countries, different cities all the time, but Springfield was home.
Got it.
And we liked it, and it was cheap to live here.
Yeah.
And we had a very low cost of living, so we were able to continuously invest in the company. And in a market here, like in most of those bigger markets, the traditional way of operating is renting a lot of equipment because there's a ton of rental houses. But here there's not that, and so we had to build and buy everything to kind of build a new hub here.
Got it.
And so we were able to do that, and we were able to build that up, and slowly from the different connections or different projects that we got or different clients that we got, we were able to kind of scale it. But the biggest focus just being that with the internet and with the accessibility of the tools that we could get our hands on, it kind of lowered the threshold of like we didn't have to be on the coast. And for us, we were like, let's at least try to make something that could be coastal and do it here. And it worked.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, at the end of it, it was like we wanted to make sure that we could always be creatively fulfilled and try and do the best work that we possibly could.
Right.
But do it from here. And in a lot of ways, that's what's enabling us to do it.
Yeah.
Is doing it from here, and kind of it's unexpected. And so there's a little bit of, we have the energy to do it because it's not as cutthroat. So
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, cost of buildings and overhead is less. But to give our listeners an idea of scale, can you tell them a little, like a couple of clients or a couple of projects that you've done that maybe they would know about?
Yeah. So we've done one of our first large clients that we were able to land through an agency was Gerber Knives. They're a knife company out of the Northwest. And we specialize a lot in outdoor stuff, and especially early on we did.
Okay.
And so we did a huge fishing campaign. They were launching a new line, and we were able to shoot all the lifestyle video and photo for that. And then there's a handful of projects that never came out, but they were large. But we did one for Virgin Mobile, and they're no longer a company. And that was a whole different story of doing a project that then doesn't come through. But then we've been able to help on music videos. We did one for a band called Wolf Parade, band called Citizen, a bunch of major label artists. And so,
Good.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And a lot of local, in the area of larger ones of like Missouri State's a large client of ours, and Convention and Visitors Bureau, we do a bunch with them, and so a lot of our work is sprinkled out, and that's kind of a portion of, we have the majority of our clients are national, and that's what we aim for a lot of it, but we also try to bring that into the local work that we do, and so especially for nonprofits that we've worked with to bring a level up for them, and so Care to Learn, we just did a bunch of work for their newest campaign that they did, and that was a fun one to do, and
So would that be what we see on the TV stations around here? So where would we see it?
That Care to Learn one has been running on KY3. And so
that's where I've seen it then.
So it's with like I don't know, girl with glasses, and then glasses, that one. So, so we shot all that. It was for their their campaign for both their kickoff event as well as marketing. And so a lot of social content, a lot of what we're making is ad campaigns, doing the video portion of the ad campaigns, partnering with photographers, partnering with agencies for where those are actually going.
Would you be able to say that you're one of the premier agencies in Springfield that works?
Yeah, for video it would be.
Yeah, for video. Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of it, one of our main goals at the beginning was to kind of build up. At the point that we were coming up, it was a little bit of a changing of the guard per se, of like older, more broadcast people were aging out, retiring. There wasn't as much of a like thriving film community, and one of our goals was to try it here and also build that community. And so we are one of the premier, and we also have numerous services where we'll like crew on other things or provide equipment for other productions in the area, and so it can kind of be a hub for other productions as well. But yeah, would be up there and with a bunch of other people that make really good film stuff out of Springfield, which has been a really encouraging thing to see, of just the growth of that creative community as well.
Yeah, I read. I don't remember. It's you were 10 of the 10 people to know, or whatever that's called in 417. So I was reading that article, and you were quoted as saying that you hoped that Springfield became more of a hub for creatives, and I'm curious how that happens, because I think, and you and I talked before. Students come here, they come to MSU, they come to Drury, whatever. We've got great educational facilities here. But then they take that knowledge and they run off to LA or New York or whatever. And kudos to you for deciding that you're going to stay in the Springfield market and be able to do that and thrive in this market versus going out to LA or whatever. What do we need to do? Are there things we need to be aware of as a community that would make it more of a hub for creatives?
Yeah, I mean, probably in some form. I think a lot of it is creatives just understanding that it doesn't really matter where you're at. You can, if you embrace what is there. And for us, that was what Springfield was. And I think that markets similar size of Springfield all across the country are starting to kind of catch that fire a bit, because it's like, oh wait, we can enjoy our life a little bit more and not and enjoy the nature that's around, and not have to work all the time, and be able to enjoy family, or be able to enjoy owning a home, or be able to enjoy like the things that in other markets you can't do. But and for us, it's a lot of creativity, because we're able to do just fun projects that we want to do, and I think that's a portion of it, is that it's not a hotbed for like the monetization of creativity. I mean, it's there, like it's easier to start a business here creatively compared to starting in a larger market. There's also negatives, like for a lot of people, some things you need to move to LA, definitely have tons of friends that have moved to New York or LA, and their careers are drastically better than if they stayed, because they just need to be in those markets, and that's I fault no one for that. But there's a lot where it's like, for us, we didn't want to go through that same hustle, and we wanted to try something here. And I think just more people knowing that it's an option. I mean, I think just the encouragement, and I think that's a lot of what Springfield does already, is encourage people that are trying new things and that are trying to do something better for the community, or do something that's slightly different that hasn't been done before, or bring new experiences to it. I think that the more that can be kind of facilitated, I think that helps tremendously. Half of it's just knowledge of like college kids knowing that, oh, there is like real film production happening here, or there is real design that's happening here. There's agencies that are doing national level work that you don't have to move to KC, you don't have to move to New York, you don't have to. You can if you want to. You want to live in New York, it's cool. Like Brooklyn's tight, super cool. But like also Springfield can be, and I think every city can be as cool or as not cool as you want to look at it perspective wise. And we have some friends of ours that we share an office with have a Springfield branded company called SGF Co. And one of their tagline is, "This place is as good as any," which is such a I love that. I feel like more of an ethos that we also have carried it as like a grouping of younger creatives trying to come up, is that, I mean, this place is as good as any, and also this place is as bad as any. Like, you can critique it all you want. You're exactly right. You can also critique every city. You know, everything has its problems and it has its benefits. And I think the more that line can get shifted, I think people can just make things to make them, no matter where they're at and what they're handed at the. Not make an excuse for why they're not making it. It's like, just make it. For us, that was kind of it. It was like, well, we can either just be like, oh, well, we're just in Springfield. Or it's like, I don't know, well, we are just in Springfield, but we're looking at all these inspirations from other places. Why not try that?
And it sounds like, to me, a lot of it is mindset. So Angie and I talk a lot about mindset, and we have here recently, just with a new year and new plans and so forth, that we all get into in a new year, right? But I personally would never have envisioned a company like yours being here in Springfield and being successful. And in the short time that we've already talked, you've opened my eyes to how we get in a rut of a mindset that we don't see the possibilities that are out there for careers, for creatives, and we could make a huge long list of everybody that would include. But it's amazing to me that we in Springfield, Missouri, and you shed such a positive light on it, that we do have people like you here and companies like you saying, I'm going to stay right here where I love to live and run a national business from here. I just love it.
Yeah, I do too. One of our top podcasts was when we had Mary Cromrie with the Ozarks Greenways on. When that gets so many downloads, it makes us, we as realtors sometimes get stuck in this little rut where, yes, we sell Springfield all the time, but sometimes the beauty around us escapes us. And to have somebody come on and talk about the Greenways Pass, and then for that to be our top downloaded podcast, really opened our eyes to people really do enjoy what we have here in the Ozarks. And as you said, nobody wants to work all the time. And some of what sparks your creativity, my guess is being outside, being outdoors, being in nature. And we have that here. So it's, I think it's a perfect marriage. I have a question about the community of creatives. Do you collaborate with other creative companies, or do you do any of that because you're sort of a community in of yourselves?
We're kind of both in like more formality and also just in the Springfield community is a pretty unique one. Film specifically is pretty unique here in that like no one's really competing against each other for the work, because a lot of people that are here making it are doing work for companies that are not necessarily in Springfield, so it's not as cutthroat worth of like we're not bidding against each other as often as some other markets. And so there's a bit where that kind of forges this just friendly community. There's not really a lot of like highly competitive things. And so for us, we wanted to try and build that from the beginning and have pretty intentionally chosen to interact with as many other creatives, because in our mind, to do a full-blown film set or a full commercial set, it needs lots of people to do it. And so for us to stay just like isolated and insulated of just being us, we won't ever get there. And so we've been trying to build that over the course of years that we've been doing it, not just for us, but for the skill set to be, because we didn't get to learn it when we were here. So if we can bring up other people that can learn like how the grip truck works and how all this equipment that they've never been exposed to are able to use it, or how the new cameras or new techniques or any of that, exposing as many people to that, so then their projects are better, and then it becomes this blossoming thing to where all the creative work is just elevated to a certain level to where it's like this is just the expectation. The way that people are treated on set, the way that work that's coming out of here, that it looks a certain way, and it's an excellence that's provided. And so we try as much as we can to collaborate and to do community meetups or to do film showings of work that either we're facilitating, or there's a good community of people that have just like started as they're premiering something, and then there's a bunch of people that show up to see it and come together with it. And then on the greater community outside of film, we're part of Springfield Creatives, which is a creative group in town that kind of, it's all commercial creatives, so it'd be like design, film, photo, web design, less on the coding, but more on the actual like design elements or art direction or agency work. And so with that, we're seeing a huge influx of, because ideally with that, you've got like your top people at the biggest agencies that are in the same room as college kids that are just trying to figure out what life looks like. And in Springfield, you can have those in the same place and be able to brush shoulders and have the connection to actually like learn and meet those people, so that ideally they stay longer. They're like, oh wait, there is this agency that does this type of work, or there's this film production that does this, or this photo studio, or this whatever. And so we try to be as involved with that as we can as well to help just provide more times for people to organically meet together and end up collaborating in some form or fashion.
That's awesome.
Do
our universities provide more of a package program now? You were saying when you were in college, you kind of had to piece it together.
Well, that was just because I changed my degree a lot.
You did say that too.
I didn't want to lose credit. It is a really cool program. They still do it. It takes a lot of paperwork to figure it out, but that was because I changed my major like 8 times. And so I didn't want to lose credit.
Self-imposed.
So I was like, well, oh wait, there's a thing I can just glue them all together. But like my 2 business partners both have different film degrees from Missouri State.
Okay.
So one is from the electronic arts program, and one is from the digital film program. And so, and we're still really involved with the Missouri State programs there. Yeah. And they're doing great stuff and providing just great exposure for people to have experience, like kids to come here, and a lot of them, they are coming from other places, and then they stick around sometimes, and it's at least more of them have been sticking around.
So
awesome.
When you need actors or some people to play in videos, do you go to MSU to theater students, or
it's kind of a mix. We work with different casting directors that'll also pull from agencies either locally or like Kansas City, St. Louis, or further, depending on what the ad is calling for, or what the actual like usage is going to be for it. But we've definitely used a bunch from Missouri State. Little theater, we've used a bunch of those kiddos and different stuff. And it definitely is a community effort. Most of what we're doing is not isolated to just us doing it. It definitely takes a full crew of a bunch of contractors that we're fortunate to work with that help make all the pieces happen. And
So when you partner, when you're hired by a national organization company, you're not necessarily going to their location to record. You're filming here for the most part?
It depends.
Okay.
Some of the time we're doing, sometimes it'll be like we'll travel to places. A lot of what we're doing on the commercial side is more ad-based commercials, and so it would be we're casting and producing it here, as if it's like, this scene set at a house and we need a kitchen that does that looks like that, like we do a lot of those here, but we also do travel. I would say the last couple of years, mainly since COVID, we definitely have been here more so. But one of our clients that we've worked with through an agency is Minn Kota Motors. They're a trolling motor company for fishing, and those were on the water in different parts of the country. So our team would spend a week in like Panama City, that they're on boats for a whole week shooting product there, or up in Minnesota shooting on the lakes there. And so a lot of times, if it's destination where it kind of needs to be, or if it's just stories for how a company, especially for a national company, they're normally in a bunch of places. So we did work for a propane thing years ago that we were in Florida, or we were in Boston, or we were in all these different, because there were school buses that were using propane. And so it was like where those stories were is where kind of we traveled to. And so we had, one of our taglines is from a backpack to a grip van. And a lot of that is we kind of do operate from either like very small footprint with excellence all the way up to like a full-fledged, fully produced production. And so sometimes that can be here, and sometimes that can be in the woods of Arkansas, or sometimes that can be like in another country.
Yeah.
So.
Very cool.
Yes.
And what is a normal production time for you? If there is such a thing. I'm certain everything has its own agenda, and I get that, but how long do you work on your average project?
Yeah, for like a full service campaign thing, it'll be a couple months worth of time between going, either we're doing the concepting or we're working with an agency that's doing the concepting, and that's we like to spend as much time in that pre-side of it to really work out all the details of it. And then typically shoots are going like a couple days to a week worth of time, sometimes longer, sometimes just one day, sometimes like half a day, depending on what it is. But and then time in the edit, sometimes a month, depends. Sometimes it's a fast music video that has to come out like that weekend, so then it comes out pretty quick. So
Interesting.
Super cool.
So I have a question. When you put 3 creatives together and you start a business, somebody needs a business mindset, right? So talk to us about maybe the challenges, if there were any, that you had, because you have both sides of the brain, right? I think you and I talked about this. You're the operations director, which tells me you've got some business acumen about you. You're also a creative. So were there challenges in terms of getting a true business up and running?
Yeah, well, since we didn't mean to do it, there definitely were.
Happenstance.
Yeah, because I think at the root of it, the reason that it's worked for us is the three of us are friends, which also is normally a red flag for businesses.
Yeah.
And we're a rarity
Right.
that we still are friends.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it came out of the three of us have the sentiment of care for making good work and each other as people. And that was, from the beginning, was something that we carried into it. And there had to be just tons of humility of like, none of us do know how we're doing this.
Yeah.
And at first, one of the main issues we ran into at first is that there were three of us and we were all three doing everything. And so we didn't really establish lanes until a couple of years later. It took us way too long to figure that out. But once we figured that out, then it was like, oh, wait, Chris, you're amazing at the technical side. I'm not going to figure any of that out. That's all you.
Yeah.
You just focus on that.
Yeah.
Josh just does the creative.
Gotcha.
I just do the business. Like, and obviously we cross over a little bit, but for the most part, it was like, that was the biggest thing we had to learn is putting people in the right places. And then as we brought team members on or contractors or full-time people, like putting them in the right place that they can actually work within that, because managing creatives we're not the best to do that with. And the rules are way different. And I think a lot of it just takes being willing to be wrong, I think, is a lot of it. And being willing to say, like, well, I don't know.
Right.
And if one of us does know more, and then I trust the other people. I have great trust for my business partners and our employees, because creativity is one where it's not always on paper that you can like put it. Like, I think in some other roles it's easier to be like, well, this person sold this many units of whatever, and it's like, I mean, creative's different, and there's some elements where it's like, maybe that's not the most efficient way to do it, but that could be okay. Or maybe that's not the most efficient way, and we should make it the most efficient way. And trusting that it's going to work for the other people on the team and that we'll collectively work together, that's been the biggest hurdle to just continuously remind ourselves of, and continuously humble ourselves enough to be like, yeah, this is okay. And also, we're a production company in Springfield, Missouri. We didn't learn these things from like the industry standard. And it has been nice to have a few like different projects where we have worked with people from coast coming in and then realizing like, oh no, it's okay. We figured this one out right. That actually is the standard, and that's cool because we strived for it. And then to be able to actually see that oh yeah, we're working towards that, and because we trusted each other and just also didn't have the expectation of what exactly it had to look like. So there was no every detail we had to figure out, and I think it made us better for it.
I think that's your benefit of being creatives and not having like this structure. Somebody gave you a piece of paper and said, this is how you have to make your business work. You know, that you got to figure it out along the way, although sometimes that's difficult and rough. But humility is a good word to use, that as long as you all were still willing to talk that through and say, okay, I was totally wrong, we need to go in this direction, then that's what makes you stronger in the end, and building a product that you can be proud of. Yeah.
There's several takeaways from what you said, and a couple of things I want to highlight for our listeners. Like you said, there wasn't a playbook, you figured it out. And sometimes people, I think, stop themselves from starting a business or doing the thing that they think they want to do because they don't have it all figured out. It stops them. Secondly, you took a passion and you turned it into a business, which is something I really love, because I tell my people all the time, if you don't love what you're doing, then get out, because it makes it rough on you. It also makes it rougher on the people around you because you're not. And then thirdly, utilizing people to their best ability, what is their strength, and playing to that strength, and figuring out that you each, although all three creative, each had something else that you brought to the table that was very essential for the business, and figuring out what those things were and giving a title to those so that you did each have a lane. So I love that. That's a piece of a puzzle that I think it takes sometimes. You said 2 years and you acted like that was a long time to figure it out. I honestly think there are business owners out there that are have been in it
floundering.
5-10 years, and they still haven't figured out to put their people in. Just because you like somebody and you've hired them and they have really a strong skill set, maybe they're not your best upfront person. Maybe they're not the people person. Maybe they're the behind the scenes person, and that's where they thrive. Figuring out where people thrive is truly, I think, a challenge for a lot of business owners.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's pivoting. I mean, I think that's being willing to do that.
Yes.
I think is one of the trickiest things. I mean, to go back to when we actually did start, like the day that I said, I gave him my notice of like, hey, I'm actually quitting. And even super supportive from my boss, like, here's my 2 weeks notice. The project that I would quit for, the same day that I turned that in, I get a call from the agency, and he's this guy named Justin, who we still work with to this day and has been a great mentor for as a business at the same time. He was like, hey man, that project still gonna happen, but not for like 2 months. And I was like, Justin, I quit my job today to do this. And he's like, it's cool. Because for him, he had just started Native, the company that he has now, a year before, after 10 years of working for a very large agency in KC. And he had made it a promise, like, I'm going to work 10 years and then I'm going to start my own thing. And like 10 years and 3 weeks to the day he started Native.
Yeah.
And he's like, I get it. I just did this. I get it. Just keep going. You're going to be okay. Like, and having that support, and also being willing to pivot and not just be like, we're done. Like, now I gotta just get a random job. It was like, all right, cool. We have an office and we have no job, so let's find money somewhere. And then we just started taking whatever we could and making whatever out of that, and being willing to actually pivot in that form, I think is, in those moments, is kind of what will kind of make or break it.
And inspire you to go to the next level. So you've kind of given us a playbook of how it started and how you've figured it out along the way. What is your future when you guys sit down and you think about and you write down your goals of, here's what we want to be in 5 years, here's what we want to be in 10 years. Well, what do those goals look like?
They're more broad than they seem. Because there's a portion of it where we want to be successful, but we're also judging success off of the type of work that we're doing.
Sure.
Because there's a portion where it's like, if I wanted to make money as a business person, I'm not doing this industry. I'm doing something else that is a little more lucrative. But that's not what I want to do for a career. We want to create, and we got into this because we wanted to make movies. Like, that was why all of us at some level, we wanted to create art and create stuff. And so one of our goals is to be proud of the work that we're doing and build upon that. And so scaling is something where it's like, maybe we're a 30-person company in 5 years. Maybe we're the same size, but the work that we're doing, regardless of that scale, is something that we're proud of and something that we're enjoying doing, and that we're not like in a soul-sucking system of what we're creating. And so that's more of what our goals center around, is just trying to make Springfield a better hub for creativity in general, specifically for the film and commercial world. We would love to see just larger and larger productions happen out of this area, and that the community grows in a way that we see this as being one of the industries that is looked at as being like, oh, you can work in the industry of film in Southwest Missouri, and that becomes more of a common thing. That'd be, and obviously that's not just us doing that, it's like building the ecosystem for other people to be able to do that, or for work to come here. I mean, I think that's a little bit of the goal, is just keep making better, inspiring things, and help other people get there in the process.
That's awesome.
And it will organically grow.
And it has, and it's been encouraging to see. And it's something that's bigger than us, and I mean, our name is on what we do, but we're proud every time that we see some of our friends that make either a short film or a commercial, or we see work that we'll interact with, of like ads on social media that we see for local places. We're like, that was really good. That's great. We didn't do that. Someone else did. And we love seeing whenever work, or like short films, or somebody that has an idea, or they go shoot something and they premiere it, and it's this moment of seeing the pride in the community of like, this came from here. And that's cool. And being supportive of that is a fun thing.
That's so awesome. You've given a lot of great, just through conversation, we've learned a lot, and I feel like, that if you're an entrepreneur out there, there's a lot of takeaways. But as we get close to wrapping up here, I'm just curious, do you have any other thoughts or advice for people who are entrepreneurs thinking about starting a business?
I mean, don't directly follow my rule book. That's what we did. I mean, it's not like a standard one by any stretch,
Yeah,
and it
for
also
sure.
only worked for us. Right. So it's, I mean, I think that's one, but I think at the end of the day, it's like, do something that, make sure you care about it.
Yes.
And that, I mean, I think that goes for whatever product. It's like, you gotta have a reason to keep going on the days that are like, we don't have the money coming in,
Right.
or we don't have a project on the horizon.
Right.
What you have to care about it enough to keep going.
Yeah. So true.
On the hardest portion of it. And so, and care about the people that you're with. I think
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's like the work and the money is one thing, but care about the people that bring you up along the way, or that you bring along with you. Like,
Yeah.
for us, that's the main thing, is care for people is more important than just like, it's a lot of why we didn't want to be in LA. Like,
Yeah.
the film world in LA is just cutthroat. And
Yeah.
the amount of times we've interacted with terrible people from LA that have come, that are like in the industry and come back and we're like, this isn't it. Like, this is why we're here. We don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes down to how people are treated.
Yeah.
And that people aren't commodities. They're people. And in every step of a process with a business, making sure that they're taken care of. And as simple as like, do they have food and water on set? Or are they paid the right rate? Are we actually checking in on like, is this industry standard? Are they getting proper treatment? Like, is this like, taking care of people along the way is one of the biggest things for us. And I would say for anybody as you're building it, like, you have the choice to do that, and it doesn't actually cost you anymore. It could,
Right.
Right.
but it'll pay off. Like, that's actual ROI that you can't fully track, that it will be
Agreed.
there
Exactly.
on the long end. And,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is the big payoff, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, that's who you have left. It's the
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
cash comes and goes.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
People are what'll be there, or they won't be there
Yeah.
whenever you're further along.
Yeah.
So.
So awesome. I have to ask you one last question, and I didn't ask you this before when we met. Locke and Stache, where'd the name come from?
So me and Chris met in college, and at the time, Chris had dreadlocks and I had a mustache. And so we were, I think we were about to shoot like a wedding video the next day, and we're like, we really need a name, and we don't want it to have cameras or our names in it.
Yeah.
And then one of us offhandedly, joking, was like, what about Locke and Stache? And then we were like, oh, that's
It's
pretty
such
good.
a cool name.
And didn't think about the SEO side or anything like
Right.
that.
Yeah,
and then the
yeah,
next,
right.
and even how we spelled it, I don't think it's not the like most normal way of spelling either of those. And then, but yeah, we went with it, and then it just woke up the next day and we're like, wow, that's pretty good. Should probably, because the biggest thing we didn't want to be like aperture ring, where they're like use like camera
Yes.
terms. Like there's
Yeah.
so many people that, or like just
wouldn't
someone's
know
name
that.
or whatever, and it was,
Yeah.
and it served us well because it actually, I mean, making that choice of just having something that was more of a sticky name.
Yeah.
We didn't realize it when we came up with it, but it has served us very well because it is more memorable.
For
sure.
And then the ghost being in our logo is from our designer that did our initial branding. Just like came up with it as part of the branding process of
Yeah.
it being like the spirit of a story and moving through space without damaging it. And so, yeah.
Very,
it.
very
So,
cool.
yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
And thank you
loved it.
for enlightening our listeners and Angie and I on you guys just having this great little big business, probably not little, but this big business that's hidden here.
Yeah.
That, people like she and I in the real estate world didn't know you were here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's
I
fun.
love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of my favorite things about Springfield is there's a bunch of these little like not little places. It's
Right,
like
yes.
it's like, oh,
exactly.
you're
Yeah.
the it's like our office is down the street from National Audio, and it's like all of the tapes that are made in this country and world come from there. And it's crazy. It's in Springfield. It's like just down the street from
nuts.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you didn't know that, National
No.
Audio
Yeah.
Company.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
We've learned all kinds
It's
of things
great.
today.
Yeah, it's a great little spot.
Well, thank you. So we want to thank Gershman Mortgage for letting us record here, and thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in, and
Yeah. And thank you, Austin.
yeah, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Simply Authentic podcast. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Be sure to listen to us on your favorite podcasting app.